From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big day here on LALATE with huge news about the markets and confusing data about your stimulus. Good afternoon. In today's recording, we go over the breaking news of the retail sales numbers that were released this week. Target missed, Walmart beat, Kohl's missed, beat. What went on? All the latest confusion across the board, what it means going into that holiday shopping season just days away. And then the confusion over the Federal Reserve, those Fed governors' confusion on both where inflation's going and where also inflation is right now. But not confusing, stimulus. In today's recording, we go over the massive federal stimulus checks that are paying viewers this week tens of thousands of dollars. Kimberly Romano, brand new success story, walking away with 18 checks, months of checks, of 5 checks a month. Folks, that's 80 plus stimulus checks. I'm going to show you how to get these incredible sums of money in today's recording. Plus, we go over back to the latest details of what's going on with the housing market as it slowly implodes very quickly, and the latest details of what you need to know left and right. Then we go over all these incredible stimuluses, FFC, LSC, ISC stimulus checks, nearly $300,000 of stimulus checks available in every U.S. state because it's from the federal government. I'm going to show you how to get it and show you why last night's recording, late last night, was an eye-opener. A lot of people realize, wait a second, I'm focusing the wrong way. I need to focus this way. I'm going to show you how to learn to earn in today's recording from the shores of Santa Monica, California. It's a big broadcast. We're currently live on Channel 3 for Wall Street Live. I'm going to go over the latest details of the stocks that you should consider in a bear market rally and Santa Claus Rally, and the stocks you should stay away from. Over on LA1, it is Afternoons LA, and we'll have the latest details of the big money at issue and the big week that's just getting started. We'll be looking back at that Consumer Price Index number and what it told us in view of the latest details from those Fed governors. Wow, big show, big broadcast, 1 hour special from the shores of Santa Monica, California. A lot of money to go over and a lot of breaking news to deal with. We're going to cover it all today. Let's get to it. It all starts right here, right now, as a big, bold, beautiful Afternoons primetime show heats up, starting right now. And good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a beautiful day. It was back at the end of the second quarter corporate earnings that we called it earnings recession. At the time, a lot of companies were giving downward guidance for the whole rest of this year. And that earnings recession caused us to believe that this would be the narrative for the whole rest of this year. Let's make it very clear that several companies downward guided for the rest of this year. But after they downward guided, what happened after that was they actually started to upward trend. Let's go over the latest details on this earnings recession confusion across the board. In second quarter, several companies said, it's going to be a very bad year. Then when we anticipated the third quarter corporate earnings this week, we expected much the same news. But it wasn't. It was actually much better. What happened? Very confusing. First, let's understand that a lot of these companies that are beating on downward reduced numbers reduced earlier this year. But they're also giving you year-end guidance, and the guidance is actually quite good. When you look at the totality of the news that came in this week, we had more companies beating on top revenue, top bottom net profits, and more companies giving big guidance of great numbers for the whole rest of this year than we had bad news. Very, very confusing, especially considering that this was the week in which the apparel companies reported earnings, and we thought this was going to be bad news as well. Last weekend, we ran the data that people were spending massive amount of money on travel and leisure, the hotels and the airlines, and not leaving a lot of money left for discretionary spending like a Ross department store. So we presumed that everyone was traveling with an airline and not leaving any money to buy stuff at Gap. Well, we were wrong, because guess what? the apparel companies soared out of control this week. Let's look at the confusing data. Now, understand, and I want to make this very clear to you, we don't know if people are buying these items on credit card debt or paying cash. Of course, that's not reflected in corporate earnings from a retailer. They just say, we have someone coming in the store. But the numbers were just absolutely through the roof. We don't know where people are getting this money from. Actually, let's lead with the story first. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so 60% are living paycheck to paycheck. So then how did Ross department stores have gangbuster numbers? How did Gap have absolutely wonderful numbers if people are living paycheck to paycheck? And I'm not talking about high-end retail. I'm talking about middle of the road. Gap up 5.1% in pre-market trading after it reported higher than expected top and bottom. Sales and profits were better than expected. Wow. Foot Locker, middle market, but apparel is slightly different. This is shoes, soared 14% in pre-market trading, beat on top and beat on bottom. Ross department store. Ross department store, discount for less. Was the stock discounted for less? No, the stock soared out of control. It was up 17% in one day. 17% in one day. In a bear market rally, in the middle of a recession, when we worry that people do not have discretionary spending to buy goods at Ross department store, that we think they're spending all their money on hotels and travel and leisure, they have nothing to go back to Ross department store and buy on, we're wrong. They apparently figured out a way to spend money at Ross department store. It was beating on top and beating on bottom that drove the stock up 17% in one day. Now, Ross department store is not a Williams-Sonoma. It's a Ross. It is not a Macy's. But the high-end market, of course, did really well as well. Williams-Sonoma was up 8.1% pre-market trading. Of course, their housewares, some of the items generally track at about $500 an item. So that's higher end. That stock beat on a top and bottom, and it also reiterated forecasts, great numbers for next year as well. Excuse me? Next year's the recession. How could they be reiterating great numbers for next year? Very confusing. Are you getting confused? You should, because I'm getting confused as well. Now, when you jump over to Macy's, Kohl's, Target, and Walmart, very, very fascinating. Macy's and Kohl's, very comparable companies. Macy's big, Kohl's miss. Kohl's withdrew year-end guidance. Target and Walmart, very comparable. Walmart beat. Target missed really badly. Missed 50% down and saying that they're going to have to cut costs by $3 billion over 3 years. Ouch. So something is clearly going on, and all we can take away is you can't predict it. You can't say Dollar Tree, Dollar General, same story. No, one could beat, one could miss. You can't say Macy's and Kohl's, one's going to beat, one's going to beat. No, one could beat and one could miss. Very, very comparable companies. And you can't say high end and low end. No, because low end beat and top end beat of the market. Fascinating across the board. And this is really why you have to get this stimulus, because if we can't figure this out, then you don't want to risk it. There is massive stimulus that is available right now that is paying my viewers tens of thousands of dollars this week. My viewers are walking away this week with 80 plus stimulus checks. That's multiple stimulus checks, folks. That is monthly stimulus checks. 18 months of them and 80 plus stimulus checks. Do you want 80 stimulus checks? I think you do. Here is what you need to laser focus with me on this 1 hour broadcast. Number one, the big checks are from the federal government, those people in Washington, D.C., Congress, and the White House. It has nothing to do with your state. So do not ask, what about my state? Your state is not sending out the check. Your mayor is not sending out the check. Your state is not paying for the check. Your state has nothing to do with it. In fact, it doesn't matter where you live. You can move across the state to the next state over and still go get the stimulus check because it's from the federal government. I'm going to show you how to get these incredible checks in just a second. Then ISC checks heat up this broadcast, a lifetime stimulus check as well. But first, let's lead with a success story. Her name, Kimberly Romano. Kimberly Romano this week got this, 18 months of stimulus checks. That's 18 months of MSCs. You remember talking about MSCs checks last year, monthly stimulus checks, multiple stimulus checks. You were talking about 6 months of checks from Bernie. Forget Bernie. remember LA. Forget Bernie, remember LA. Bernie was trying to do maybe 6 months of checks. I'm trying to show you how to get 18 months of checks. It's a great new year, and it's greater news on this channel. How much money per month? Bernie was talking about $1,000 a month. And what am I getting you? $5,000 to $7,000, almost $10,000 a month. Look at these numbers. Kimberly Romano wants you to know that she got check B, and she has gotten all her utilities every month and her HOA fees of $360. Most people's utility bills, if you add them all up, are at least $2,000 a month. Then she has her HOA fees of $360. So that's almost $3,000 a month. No one in Congress was ever going to give you $3,000 of MSC checks last year. No one was going to give you $3,000 a month. I'm giving you $3,000 a month right now. I'm not paying it myself. I'm showing you how to get it. $3,000 a month. No one in Congress is going to give you 18 months of stimulus checks. I'm showing you how to get 18 months of about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. That's what Kimberly Romano is sitting on. And let's run the math. 18 times 2, yeah, that's nearly $40,000. $40,000 of stimulus checks right now. How come I don't hear about this? How come I don't see this? How come I don't hear this anywhere else? Because LALATE is #1 in America for financial news for the subject matter. The reason why this channel wins is because no one else is reporting this, because no one else cares. No one else cares to do the research. No one cares to show you how to do it. LA is #1 overall and #3 on all financial news. And my predictions on recession, inflation, housing market, auto has all been right over the last 2 years. They continue to be right today as well. That's why you want to go under this video and become a member. Where do I get these checks? You start by joining this channel. Joining LA1, LA2, or LA3, any of these 3 broadcasting channels of this broadcasting family. Then, #2, getting that membership newsletter, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Going right in and apply for these incredible checks. Let's make it very clear. Viewers are paying just a few dollars to become a member and are walking away with not a few $100s, not a few $1,000s, but in many cases, tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases, over $100,000 to $200,000. By just becoming a member for a few dollars, that's why you want to pounce as a Purple Hawk. Purple Hawk is an expression that I established nearly 2 years ago that describes when money is available, you pounce and get those big sums of money as quickly as possible. You get those big sums of money as possible. You don't wait because ultimately the money could run out. And what we learned last night is that there's clearly a stimulus stampede underway. I'll explain to you why in just a second. Well, guess what? Because Kimberly Romano was not done there yet. This is all this week, folks. This is no less than 2 days ago. Kimberly Romano went and got more money on top of that. Already $40,000. Then she went and got her past due property taxes of $4,000. Okay, now we're at $44,000. Not done there yet. She got check A. She got check B. Now she's got check A, which is $6,500 and $12,000. Wow. We could be upwards of $50,000 plus with Kimberly. And she's not alone. It's happening every day on this channel. Congratulations to the person who posted a success story in last night's live show. I'm going to try to pull it and remember for evenings. It was brand new. It happened about 7 hours ago. I did not bring the notes on camera. Margaret reported to me she has lined up 6 more months of LG&E, and she's going to get utilities for $600 a month more. And she has gotten lots of stimulus before on this channel as well. It's a lot of success stories. And let's go over the details of it. 3 categories of checks. And over this 1-hour broadcast, I'm going to go over each of these categories. I'm going to go through each of these checks. So I'm going to show you how to get them. All you have to do is just sort of open your mind and get ready to focus. You want to take notes, you can take notes. If you're a member, you can pull out the worksheet with me and take notes. You need to open your mind and just get ready to earn by learning. 3 categories. The first ones are federal stimulus checks from the federal government, passed by Congress and the White House. It's nearly 300 different checks, $300,000. Federal government sends it out. They pay for it. They put stamp on the envelope. Next up, inflation-related stimulus checks. ISCs, great. They're about $1,000. They're coming up later in this broadcast. Then lifetime stimulus, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. And one viewer last night, his life was changed. His life was changed because he was watching this show live on air. And no one cared to tell this veteran that his raise of his benefits are cumulative, not replacement. That his benefits are going to cumulatively be raised And he was so grateful that someone finally explained this to him. It's a very simple concept, but no one's taken the time to explain any of this to anyone. No one is explaining to my veterans. No one's explaining to the SSI and SSDI. They don't care. Local broadcasters rather report about Chloe and Courtney. And so when you say, I don't hear about it either, because they don't care. They don't care if veterans know that their benefits are cumulatively going to go up or not. They just go on to something, like great lip gloss for the holiday season. It's like, I can care less. So there you go. The big money and how you get this big money is coming up later in this broadcast. Stay with me. It's a 1-hour show, and I'm so excited you're here. Let's go back into the breaking news that we dealt with this week. And among the breaking news stories we dealt with was the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve, folks, is getting a little bit dicey and spicy, because in less than just a few days, they have really changed their approach to everything. They have changed how they look at the data, they've changed what the data is, and they've changed their analysis. So generally, I tell you the Federal Reserve is data. Generally, I tell you if Jay Powell says something, it's data. This is not Jay Powell speaking, this is governors. And so for the first time really on Afternoons LA, I'm going to start to say it. If you hear something from Michelle Bowman, if you hear something from Christopher Waller, if you hear something from Mary Daly, and I'll go through all their comments in just a second, and if you hear something from Boulard out of St. Louis, it's analysis. It's not data. Because suddenly what they're saying is contradicting, and in fact, it's not only contradicting each other, it's not consistent with the data. Let's lead with the data first. That's how we do on this channel. That's why we never get anything wrong on this channel. We lead with the data. Inflation. Where is inflation right now? Inflation right now is dependent upon the last consumer price index number released about a week ago, CPI. I'm going to go over that in just a second. The next inflationary numbers we're going to get released are on December 1. The Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. It is for the prior month of November, but more importantly, it usually mirrors the next CPI, which comes in early December. Where do we have inflation right now, according to that latest CPI, no less than about a week ago? The headline numbers, up. The component numbers, 90% up. Only 3 numbers down. So, very basically, inflation has not peaked, meaning it has not come to a mountain, come back down. Inflation's not trending downward. Inflation's actually still trending upward, because this data is still month to month up like the prior month. Headline number. Month to month inflation was up. And that is a trend line. That is a monthly trend line up that we have had for several months. The CPI was up 0.4% compared to the prior month. So that is a trend upward. Let's go on to annualize. It was up 7.7% annualized year to date. That is a trend upward. So there's nothing that trends downward in this number. Don't get confused by wrong comments by wrong governors at the Federal Reserve. Let's look at the component parts. Only 3 numbers were down. The numbers you expected to see down: apparel, medical, and used car sales. Apparel down 0.7%, used car sales down 2.4%, and medical down 0.6%. We knew that auto was going to fall apart because no one can afford a car on a car loan. And that's it. Everything else in the CPI was up. And up a lot, folks. Let's not sugarcoat it. This CPI, the vast majority of the numbers up were hideously up. There was the rent, highest monthly gain since 1990. The rent on an annualized basis, highest gain since 1982. The food, up nearly 11% year to date. Monthly, up nearly 1%. The only thing, and then hourly earnings were basically flat. So where is anything down in this report? There's no inflation down. And that's why we're leading with the data today. So I am not going to repeat nonsense. My apologies, but that's the way I'm not going to mince my words. I'm not going to repeat nonsense from Fed governors that say things like, it was a good report. It wasn't a good report. The inflationary numbers were up. I'm not going to repeat nonsense from a Fed governor that says something like, well, one good report does not make a trend line down. It's not a trend line down. It's a trend line up. I mean, what are they saying? And then I'm not going to run nonsense from a Fed governor who says, I don't have enough data. I'm waiting for more data. You do have enough data. The data shows inflation's up. I mean, inflation does not show itself down. And yet, when you lead with the data, you sort of sit back and say, who are these crazy people that says inflation's come down? It has not come down. And yet it may not be rising as fast as expected. When it goes up 0.4, when they're looking for it to go up 0.5, but it's still going up. That's why I have to get all these stimulus. You got to get the stimulus if very smart people at the Federal Reserve can say really stupid things, like saying that inflation's come down when it's really not, when saying they need more data, when the data shows that things are where they are. So where do I think sensible minds of the Federal Reserve will put this at? A 50 basis point increase of a December FOMC meeting and continuing those interest rate spikes into 2024. Not going to get it done. Inflation is 8%. They got to go to 2%. We've been doing this all year long. Well, they've been doing it all year long, and they only have it at 7%. They got to go to 2%. It's going to take 2 more years. That's why you don't want to bet against stimulus. You want to get as much stimulus as you can, and I want you to get that with me starting right now. This incredible stimulus is needed in view of all those interest rate spikes that are coming from the Federal Reserve. I'm going to go over all this great stimulus with you right now so you understand where it is, what it is, and how it started. Welcome to all my brand new members of this channel. Let's go over the details of it right now. Federal stimulus checks started with Joe Biden in March. 300 different checks, $300,000 passed by Joe Biden by executive action. You qualify. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less annual income, go get it. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or rail benefits, go get it. It's from the president, and it's in every U.S. state because it's federal stimulus. Your state has nothing to do with it. You qualify, go get it. Then came Congress. They passed more checks, L and E through K, bringing us to then hundreds of checks for the purple power. Where do you get these checks? How do you get these checks? You go on this video, join the channel, then get that membership newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go down the membership newsletter because I have other checks brand new in there from SFC, L&M, N&O, P&Q, delivered from me to you in that membership newsletter. All these incredible checks. You pounce and get them, Purple Hawks, Purple Powers, and Calcino VIP members. And you want to learn how to do it? I'm going to show you in this broadcast. I'm going to go over each of these checks for you across the board. Big sums of money and big exciting details across the board as well. If those Fed governors cannot agree upon basic principles of what's going on, imagine how confusing it's going to be for everyone else. What you need to know is I believe the Federal Reserve is going to stay course. They're going to raise those interest rate spikes for 2 more years, potentially no longer 75 basis point, now 50 basis point, number one. Number two, they're knocking inflation down, and the spending habits in the latest corporate earnings where you see Gap, Ross, Macy's, Walmart all beating in major ways suggests that people are spending out of control. 60% of them may be living paycheck to paycheck, but they're figuring out a way to spend. And Visa and Bank of America told us that the way they're spending is by credit card debt. Now, if you go back into that report today about the 60% living paycheck to paycheck, it says that they have lost their ability, Americans, to balance their finances. It says that Americans have really lost their ability to keep track of how to balance their finances. And you know what that means? Stimulus stampede come in January. Stimulus stampede come in January, February, when they look at that credit card debt and they cannot pay for it. So let's get some incredible stimulus, get some incredible sums of money. Let's do it right now. Let's jump into those first 3 checks of A, B, and C. And they're absolutely incredible. Check A is a $6,500 to $12,000 forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. This is the check that Kimberly Romano got. And this is the check that Spella got. How do you get check A? You go right on this video, become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. Then go down to that membership newsletter to see check A and click the link and go right and apply. It's that straightforward. You deserve these big sums of money across the board. It's so straightforward, and you want to rock and roll with this left and right. You're not done there yet. Go down to this newsletter and then apply for check B. Check B is a wonderful monster check, and that also Kimberly got. Check B is $15,000 to $80,000, a forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. And that's what Frank Mancuso got as well. Frank Mancuso, just like Kimberly, got 18 months of stimulus checks. How many checks is he getting? Well, it looks very similar to Kimberly's numbers. He's getting 18 months of mortgage. Wow. 18 months of utilities. Wow. 18 months of high-speed internet. Wow. Folks, that's about 5 checks, 6 checks a month. 6 times 18, that is, 5 times 20 is 100. That's almost 80 plus checks right there. He got this in less than 1 month of becoming a member, folks. He paid just a few dollars, and he's walking away with tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Not 100,000, but very close. But another viewer out of Florida, she did get $100,000 in less than 30 days because she got nearly 8,100 checks from this incredible family, the Purple Power family. Go right in this video, become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP, and then when you get that newsletter, go down in the alerts till you see the link and go right in and apply. Go right and apply and get all these incredible checks. You're not done there yet. Go get some Check C. Check C is for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. And it's huge. On Mornings LATE Live on the air this morning, Lynn Glenn was in the live chat, and she updated us. She said she got 5 months of rent. She got 14 months of utilities. She's not alone. Check C is for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. And we've been getting people $50 million on this channel for 2 years, and it includes Check C's. Let's look at the Check C success stories that viewers have gotten and that you should get as well. Again, it's for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. Let's look at it right now. Do you want $30,000 of rent? Go get some Check C. Do you want these incredible $15,000 for utilities? Go get some Check C. That's what Mark's brother-in-law got. Same brother-in-law, $250,000 over 10 years. Combinations of checks. Nisi was at 23. She went to 50,000. Mark was at 32,000. He went to 50, then 100, then 166. And Lorraine, she was at 105. She went to 155. What are you watching? You're watching LALATE, the #1 most watched financial news channel in America for the subject matter. No one else covers this in this depth, in this magnitude at all. #3 overall for all financial news among all broadcasting entities in America right today. LALATE expands and covers now 3 channels. LALATE1, the original, LALATE2, and LALATE3. LALATE2 is about stimulus and humor, with Stimulus Live airing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Channel 2, covering all these stimulus checks with you one at a time. Then at 7 o'clock nightly, approximately, is humor programming. Over on LA3 is Wall Street Live, which you may be watching right now. That airs concurrently in the mornings or right before noon on LA3. And then in the evenings, coming is the food programming as early as potentially this weekend. Meantime, we have long form, short form, taped live, and now 3 live shows on 3 channels. LA1, LA Live, LA2, Stimulus Live, and LA3, Wall Street Live. Become a member to any one of these 3 channels, then go under all 3 channels and subscribe. Go under all 3 channels and hit the bells on all notifications on all 3 channels so you don't miss a recording. And go down in that membership newsletter delivered from me to you and pounce and get these incredible sums of money. In the big second half, we're going to continue with these big sums of money. But first, we'll look back on something that happened last night. Did you see it? Last night, shortly after 8 o'clock, I pressed record on a cell phone. Very rare for me on this channel. Pressed record on a cell phone, and suddenly, nearly 300 people jumped into that cell phone live chat. It was a rude, crude, basic, introductory type video on a cell phone. However, within seconds, there was 300 people in the live chat. Within less than 15 minutes, it became the most watched video of this channel in the first hour of the fall. And by the end of the day, it became one of the most watched shows on this channel of 2022. Why was it? It's hard to say, but here's a couple of takeaways I have from it. #1, I was live in the chat with the viewers. The chat was open to all viewers of all magnitudes, so I was in the live chat. #2, it was a Q&A. It was a question and answer. And now I tried that out this morning on Mornings LALATE. I tried Mornings LALATE as question and answer at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time today as well. If you like it, patronize Mornings LA at 9 a.m. If you like that Q&A format, open to everyone if you have questions across the board. Moreover, people really liked the insight and the messaging. The messaging was stay on point. The messaging was federal stimulus checks are from the federal government, so do not ask me, what about my state? Your state doesn't pay for it. That's why it's called federal stimulus checks. Something resonated with that video, and I'll try it again in a different way, but for now I'm rolling it into Mornings LA with that live Q&A open to everyone. So if you have questions about how to get something, where it is, how this works, jump on Mornings LA every day at 9 a.m. Coming up in the big second half, we continue with these FSC checks. We got a lot of them. Then over to ISC checks, then lifetime stimulus checks. And then we turn back to the latest details on what would be next for stimulus and what will be next for the markets. We got a big show and we're just getting started. It's Afternoons LA. It is Wall Street Live. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as all the breaking news continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE Live Daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then Afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. Excitement continues on a big second half of Afternoons LALATE and Wall Street Live from the shores of Santa Monica, California. Congratulations to Kimberly Romano, who is sitting on 18 months of 5 checks a month approximately. Folks, that is nearly $80,000 to $100,000. I'm going to show you how to get these big sums of money. It is absolutely incredible. There is a hater in the live chat, and I'm going to use the hater as an example of why with a stimulus stampede, you're also going to have a lot of jealousy. And that's always what happens across the board. It's sad, but that's what always happens across the board. It's a big second half, and we're going to have big sums of money. And all continues right now from the shores of Santa Monica, California. Good morning and good afternoon. How are you? Depending on what time zone you're in. The continuation of these federal stimulus checks passed by Joe Biden, passed by Congress, continues right now. And we pick up with checks E through K. These are the ones that are done by Congress, and they're absolutely incredible. Check E is a wonderful $7,500 stimulus check. Check F, $4,000 stimulus check. Check G, a 30% off stimulus check. Check H, $2,000 stimulus check. Check I, a beautiful $8,000 stimulus check. Check J, $8,000. And check K, $14,000 stimulus check. Wow. Next up is L and M. L is $100,000 of loan interest-free money. M is beautiful, wonderful, $4,000 of grant money. Stimulus N, we are talking about just about an hour ago on Mornings Live on Air. I was in the live chat with Lynn Glenn and Ann, and Lynn Glenn got Stimulus N. Stimulus N is a brand new tablet, brand new computer, brand new laptop, and it's just absolutely incredible. Also free internet. And it's been featured on this channel for several months, but it all changed just a few weeks ago. When John Maloof got the tablet, told me he got it while I was on air on Mornings LA. He says, I'm watching you on the tablet. Wow. I recorded that, and I said, John, go get some more money. He did. He got $24,000 in 2 days. Well, what happened thereafter? What happened after that was Spelly got the tablet. Then Lynn Glenn watched Spelly get it because Spelly got it because John got it. And then Lynn got the tablet. and she was watching, she was using the tablet today as well. Since then, viewers have told me that Stimulus N is really one of the easiest stimuluses to get. It really is. It's one of my favorite. Brand new tablet, computer, laptop for free internet. Absolutely incredible. And then we go to Stimulus O. 0 down payment and 0 closing costs. No credit check at all. Then coming up is Stimulus P. 3% down. That is for 3% down and $8,000 of free closing costs. Incredible across the board. And there you go, your federal stimulus checks. Now, when you become a member, you get in the newsletter. What was that? Anne would like it. It's the Miltonia. It tells me the name of the orchid. I had an orchid piece of paper behind me. So when you become a member, you go down the membership news around the third line. You can print out the worksheets. The worksheets are really important because it keeps track of all the incredible stimulus you want to apply for. And it's very important in view of what we're seeing right today. Federal stimulus checks. Largest check, $100,000. Smallest check, $8,000. Fastest payout, 2 days, because Johnny started on Monday. By Wednesday, he had $45,000. By Friday, he had a whopping $80,000 with 15 applications in, half approved, half rejected. The next week, he helped mom and dad each get $50,000, and then his friends and neighbors, 20 of them, getting $250,000. We have checks for the home, improvements of the home, appliances for the home, the car, the internet, the computer, and more. It's absolutely incredible. It's federal stimulus checks. Remember, when you focus on federal stimulus checks, you lead with it because it's big sums of money. It's tens of thousands of dollars. Dragon getting $170,000. Johnny getting $250,000 for his neighbors and friends. Mark getting Mark getting $166,000. Lorraine $155,000. Viewers are getting $200,000, $100,000, over $50,000 all the time. And Miss Romano's success story, Killing Romano's success story, is not unique. It's happening daily. One viewer in the live show last night also had a success story. I have his success on Even's LATE as well. If you have a success story, post in the live chat and also send it to me on private message. I'll feature it live on air. Next up is inflation relief stimulus checks, ISCs. They're good, but they're sort of like the whipped cream on the cake. They're not the cake. $1,000, number one. Number two, they are a beautiful check by direct deposit or automatic, so you don't have to do anything about it. But to learn about it, go under the video, go under the newsletter down to check D like donut, click the link, it opens a brand new page, lists the state and lists the amount of the check and how to get it across the board. Next comes finally a lifetime stimulus, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. And this was a game changer last night for a veteran. He was so happy to be part of this incredible community, but he was also really happy that in that live show, in which was Q&A, question and answer, he asked me, is the next raise replacing my current raise? I said no. No one explains this to anyone, even our veterans. The next raise does not replace, it's a cumulative raise. So imagine a skyscraper and imagine you were on the first floor 2 years ago. Then you got a 5.9% raise for this year. You went to the second floor. Next year, you're getting an 8.7% raise. You're going to the third floor. Yes, they are not replacement. They're cumulative. And Jay Powell's made it very clear you're going to have 2 more years of inflation thereafter. So you're going to go to the fifth floor, as your benefit check will be the largest of a generation. What happens after that? What happens after that is that the price of goods you're paying for are going to be the cheapest of generations, because they're going to come down. So suddenly you're going to have the biggest check by year 5, and then the items you buy are going to be cheapest of a generation. Wow, that is incredible, great news. And that is your lifetime stimulus checks, LSC. Big news, and the big news continues right now. Let's jump back into those comments by those Fed governors, and let's analyze it and understand whether we agree with it or don't agree with it. And the latest details on this, on the situation, is very, very fluid. Your recession, your benefit raise, your housing market, your unemployment, and your forced stimulus. The breaking news continues right now on Afternoons and Wall Street Live. Fed Governor at St. Louis, James Bullard, said the following this week. Thus far, the change in monetary policy stance appears to have only had a limited effect on observed inflation. Do I agree? Absolutely, I agree, because inflation has really not improved from 8% down to 7.7 plus, so it has not really moved at all. He said market pricing suggests that disinflation is expected in 2023. Do I agree? I do. So, of his comments, I sort of agree with everything he's saying that the drop of the price of goods is really not happening. Will start next year. Will not end next year. It will start next year. To sustain a sufficiently restrictive level, the policy rate will need to be increased further, meaning we need more interest rate spikes. Absolutely. So I think his comments are really great and on point. Let's look at some of the other comments we had from Fed governors this week. So we had Waller, Federal Governor Christopher Waller, saying, looking into the next meeting of the Federal Reserve, I'm more comfortable doing a 50 basis point hike. I agree with that as well. But I won't be making a judgment, he says, until I see more data, including the next Personal Consumption Expenditure Index inflation report, December 1. Do I agree with that? No, I don't. This doesn't make any sense. The latest CPI was a bad report. Inflation was up. So what are you going to see in the next report from the PCE? That inflation's down? No. I mean, it's not going to change overnight. It may be less up, but it's not going to be down. You know, if you went up 0.4 last month, maybe it goes up 0.2 or 0.1, but it's not going to be negative, 3. It's not going to show that 20 component parts are down when they were all up less than 4 weeks ago. I don't understand what he's talking about. I can emphasize, okay, it gets actually worse. Waller goes on to say, I cannot emphasize enough that one report does not make a trend. Okay, this is not pure nonsense. This is pure nonsense. Because the report showed the component numbers up. It didn't show the component numbers down. So why would he say that the report does not prove a downward trend line? It doesn't prove any downward trend at all. It doesn't prove anything downward, let alone trend. It's way too early to conclude that inflation is headed sustainably down. Earth to Mars, yes. There is nothing down in the report except used cars, apparel, and medical. Everything else was up. It doesn't make any sense what he's saying. And then Mary Daly. Mary Daly, I like her a lot, but her comments worried me the most. She said she's not using so much the contemporary data of the CPI. She's using live data by asking the landlords, the renters. And she said the rent's coming down. Excuse me? Okay, now this is sort of like I have a secret behind curtain number 1. She said the rent is coming down based upon live data she sees by going to the communities. That's nice. Can you bring those community people over to me to talk with them? Because I don't believe them. The CPI showed that the rent was going up the highest of one month since 1990 and the highest yearly raise since the 1980s. So she sees data that's going down by talking to a couple people. I can understand that the people say that it's going up less significantly or that it's softening slowly, but to show a completely different direction on the number when the number was really high and really up, and she says it's actually coming down. This is this type of stuff that worries me across the board. What about the markets? What about the stocks? What about understanding where we're going and how we're heading with a very, very confusing earnings period? Well, what you need to understand is that where we have these corporate earnings landing right now is fascinating. And I can't predict the discretionary spending of the consumer, nor can you. Obviously, discretionary spending of the consumer is based upon how much debt they can put on that credit card. And I thought they were almost debt-laden. I almost thought that they were out of debt. That the travel and leisure for December and November and October is going to run those credit cards to the roof and then they're going to max out. I mean, that's what you and I thought. We all thought that January, February is when the credit card companies are going to come knocking and say, hey, pay the card. They may still. But apparently people still have room to put stuff on credit card. 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. So even if you're living paycheck to paycheck, do you have room to put stuff on credit card that you cannot afford? Apparently. And that's why that quote that I want to go back to again is really, I think, one of the most helpful quotes for us going into the brand new week. The quote is this one. Listen to it very carefully. More consumers who have historically managed their budgets comfortably are feeling the financial strain, which will impact their spending behavior as we head into the holiday shopping season. It's a very double entendre type of quote, but the way I interpret the quote, tell me yes or no if you agree with me or not, it sounds as though the quote is saying most people who historically manage their budgets are not managing their budgets right now, and they will feel the financial strain when they go into the holiday season. That's the way I interpret the quote, because it is sort of like a double negative type sentence. My takeaway is I believe that's really what's going to happen. My predictions, my analysis is that the credit card level of debt that people can run up at the moment is higher than you and I thought. People have a lot of room to put stuff on credit card, more than you and I thought, number one. Number two, I really do agree that they're not really balancing their budgets, that they're just spending like it's going out of style. Number three, they really do not anticipate an implosion of the labor market. The labor market, folks, I want to make this very clear because I don't think I've made it clear before. The labor market will implode if certain industries implode. So I don't care how fascinating, how great, how profitable in past a corporation has been, they will lay you off if they're feeling financial strain. Going into the weekend, Carvana, which everyone knows about, used auto car reseller with the jukebox, what do they call it? Vending machine, vending machine for cars into the sky, laid off 10% of its workforce in one day. Why? Because they saw the path to profitability changing, and the stock was down 10% in one day. Imagine if you work at a Carvana, and last year you saw record numbers of sales. Everyone had a car, you could ask any price you wanted, and you could get any price you wanted when you tried to sell that car. That was Carvana. Imagine how strong the auto market was last year when everyone was buying a car because interest rates were low, because car loans were affordable. Well, J. Powell came along and started raising rates, suddenly making cars unaffordable. And remember, if you have a car you bought last year, the car loans are going through the roof now. Yeah, it's not a fixed mortgage. It's not a fixed loan. It's a variable interest rate car loan. That car became unaffordable. And what about the new consumers? They're not coming to the vending machine car thing in the sky because they cannot afford a car loan. We all talked about this on this channel months ago. And why is this important? It's important for labor. It's important for labor because if you're sitting back today and you say, I work in retail at Kohl's, and Kohl's is a great company, I'll have my job. No, Kohl's is in big trouble right now. I work in retail, and Target and Walmart had great numbers, so obviously I have a great job at Target. Target missed by 50%. So imagine your brother works at Walmart and you work at Target, and Walmart reports great corporate earnings, and your brother says, my job's secure at Walmart, and then you work at Target, and Target reports a 50% miss on corporate earnings and says it's going to cut costs by $3 billion over 3 years. Yeah, I don't think that the average American who works at Target watches the corporate earnings from Target. They don't hear these messagings from these corporate CEOs. They don't know the CEO is going to cut costs by $3 billion over 3 years. We don't know it's a labor cost, but we presume it may be. And that's why I believe that the financial cliff, which is falling off a cliff because you believe the status quo is going to continue, it doesn't, is going to be very, very serious next year. Because a lot of people think great times are here to stay. And there are some indications that good times are here to stay. Macy's, Ross, Gap, Foot Locker, beating massive great numbers in third quarter earnings. Great times are here to stay with them. But if you're across the street at Target, if you're across the street at Kohl's, not particularly good across the board. Fascinating twists and fascinating turns, and it's just getting started. The programming continues today on this channel with Eating to LALATE at 5 o'clock. It's a brand new show. It's in prime time. What is this? This is LALATE, 3 channels and 3 great different platforms. LALATE 1, LALATE 2, and LALATE 3. On LALATE 1, we have Stimulus Live that airs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, featuring the latest details on your stimulus. Excuse me, that's LA2. LALATE2, we have Stimulus Live. On LA3, we have Wall Street Live, which you may be watching right now, which airs in the early mornings every day. Then on LA1, we have LA Live that airs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have long and short and tape and live format programming. Coming up next, if you're watching the show, is Holidays, LA at 11 a.m. on Channel 1. And if you're watching this taped, then coming up later tonight is Evenings LA at 5 o'clock on LA1 as well. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, become a member. Get all these incredible sums of money in the LA newsletter. Become part of this incredible Purple Power family. You deserve these sums of money. Don't risk it. Get the money right now. And Holidays LA will return in just a day from now as well, as we fit all this programming into its respective slots. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, happy holidays, and stay with LA for more.